I here tonight? I'm here tonight because of you. I look out and I see the faces and I see people connecting and I see people I've met before and I hear stories I've heard before and success stories. And I'm here tonight too because my brother almost died from hepatitis. 30 million Americans are affected by liver disease, so we're here to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. So thank you. It is great. No, thank you. Thanks. Right now, though, I want to introduce one of the most exhausted American Liver Foundation professionals working in the country right now, Lisa Gallipoli. She is the Executive Director for the American Liver Foundation Greater New York Division. She's tireless.
Good evening, everybody. So I know we have a great NYU crowd here. Dr. Davidovich replaced my left hip last year, but I still can't do these stairs really well in heels. So I want to thank you, John, and most importantly, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. Together, we are making a brighter future for those living with liver disease. We have some of our national board members with us. We have Tom Nealon, chairman of the board and CEO, who I can't see, but I know he's out there. And some of our other stewards of the organization on a national level, Alan Durr, Carlo Frappoli, and Michael Kerr, who I know most of you know and you'll get to see later. We have our division board members. We're one of 16 divisions across the country. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge one of our board members emeritus at the division level, Nancy Cantor, who's here with us. Unfortunately, Herb Cantor died this past winter, and we just wanted to take a moment to recognize that and to thank both of the Cantors for all of their support for the foundation over the years. When you talk about pioneers, you really do talk about families like the Cantors. But it's not about just old friends, it's about new friends. We got the privilege of meeting Gary Egan, who you'll get to meet later tonight, one of Dr. Teperman's patients. And we have the official Dr. Teperman fan club of patients, some of our new friends over here. We have companies in the room, Gilead, Salix, our presenting sponsor, Gilead, our honoree, AbbVie, a new national partner. When you talk about people who are doing the job, the yeoman's work of the fight against liver disease, it is these pharmaceuticals who are changing the face of liver disease, and we celebrate that. And then I want to thank our honorees for allowing us to honor you and for giving us the opportunity to invite and solicit all of your friends this evening. Together, we are making a difference, and we're providing a voice for the 30 million Americans with liver disease. We can't do our aggressive mission, patient, public, and professional education, advocacy and awareness and research. It's expensive work, and we need the dollars that we raise to do it. So I want to thank you all in advance. So I now have the pleasure of announcing our first presenter, Dr. Hillel Tobias. When I met Dr. Teperman, he gave me 3 tasks when we said we would honor him. He wanted kosher mini franks, he wanted to have his award presented first, and he wanted Dr. Tobias to present it.
Oops. Good evening, friends. Thank you for coming. It's really indeed a privilege and a pleasure to stand here tonight to present the Physician of the Year Award to my dear colleague, Dr. Louis Teperman. I think pretty much everyone in the liver and transplant communities knows who Dr. Teperman is, but for those of you who don't, he's the director of the organ transplant service at the New York University Langone Medical Center, a transplant service which he himself created after his arrival there in 1989, some 25 years ago. Those were the early days of liver transplantation, and doctors like Lou Teperman were pioneers. Liver transplantation was, shall we say, invented, or at least developed in the late 70s and 80s as a modern life-saving procedure by the famed Dr. Thomas Starzl, who I understand is up for a Nobel Prize at last this year. And Lou Teperman was part of his first class of protégés that spread out around the country to establish beachheads for this new and exciting surgery. Those who grew up with Lou during his childhood tell me you could tell early on he was a pioneer, and even you all can tell from this picture, as you might expect of any 9-year-old with a bow tie, he was a child prodigy who whizzed through school and graduated from Bronx High School of Science at the age of 15. Shown with his mother and father, of course. But if I can let this very private audience, in on a very private secret that only some of us know, it was not only his brain that catapulted him along the road to success. He had a secret weapon, Marjorie. Marjorie was Lou Teperman's mother, of course. Sadly, Mother Marjorie died 2 months ago at the age of 92. But we all know she and her spirit will always be with Lou and the liver transplant community forever and ever. After graduating from Mount Sinai Medical School, Lou went on to a surgery residency at Columbia Presbyterian and Long Island Jewish, and then made his critical career decision to study with famed Tom Starzl at Pittsburgh, the mecca of liver transplantation. We all know that Lou craves excitement and adventure, and some say he went into liver transplantation because he liked the idea of flying in small planes in the middle of the night, as liver transplant surgeons often do in the course of going out to obtain liver donations. Others have said he went to surgery because we all know surgical suites are populated by scores of attractive women in very small and very smart blue jumpsuits. But those of us who really know him know he went into liver transplant surgery because he knew he could do a lot of good for a lot of very sick people. And when the operation is over, if you're still awake enough to remain standing, you can get a lot of hugs from a lot of wives and husbands and thankful children. However, one of the very special characteristics of Lou Teperman is his devotion to his family. His obligations to and his love of his family are legendary. Here we have Lou with his son Jake, now a medical student at NYU. No comments about nepotism. But then Jake was a bit, no, don't get the wrong idea. He didn't get admitted to medical school at this age. I'm sorry, the person on the right is actually my wife, Wendy, but I couldn't resist putting this picture in. Okay. The other important people in his life, of course, is his daughter, Carly, seen here with Jake at a later age. A very important couple in their lives. And of course, I think we all know that the petite 98-pound gorilla in the Teperman family is the quite beautiful and charming Helene Teperman. And in between liver transplants, they hang out together. Actually, the family hangs out a lot, particularly in the Teperman Country House out on Long Island and on the north shore of Long Island, facing on the Long Island Sound. And overlooking the Long Island Sound and the North Fork, you can see the Teperman family. Don't get the wrong idea, that's not his boat in the background. His boat is more like a little rubber thing about 10 feet long. I don't want the New York Times to think he's getting overpaid for the transplants. This place has been the site of wonderful family get-togethers, and we have our annual department party there. So I think we have here a man of many talents, many interests, giving mTOR inhibitors to transplant patients on immunosuppression. Currently, as those of us who work with him know, he is madly and hard at work on an artificial liver system for patients with acute liver failure. Lou is a really great transplant surgeon, a terrific researcher and teacher, but those who know him know he is not such a bad politician either. And in between his surgeries and lectures, he manages to move up in the ranks of academic circles, where he is currently vice chairman of the NYU Department of Surgery, shown here with Professor Leon Pachter, our chief of surgery. And in between all this, he can play the role of Dr. Oz, though I depend on him much better than I would on Dr. Oz. He operates much more frequently. As shown here advising the world on XM radio, Dr. Radio, along with our chief coordinator, Donna Campbell, on the right. And in the next picture, along with our director of renal transplantation, Bruce Gelb. But he has also starred on national broadcasting, and he even seems to find time to be a doctor to the stars, whether or not they need a liver transplant. And I find it hard to believe that Catherine Zeta-Jones' liver was the basis of this association. Like all 21st century Renaissance men, Lou's interests range even further afield. How he manages to fit them all into a day amazes most of us around him, but he does. He's also a police surgeon. That's legit. I didn't make it up. And a police commissioner associate. You see Kelly on the other side, looking to Lou for advice. And not to mention a deep sea diver, a cowboy. Anyone who knows him knows he is never without his cowboy boots. But fortunately for those of us in the department, he doesn't bring the horses to 34th Street very often. He's also a boatsman, and I think he's also a calf roper. Not to mention, he is the single most important leader of the Saudi Arabian army. However, one of the very special characteristics of Lou Teperman is his devotion to his family. His obligations to and his love of his family are legendary. Here we have Lou with his son Jake, now a medical student at NYU. No comments about nepotism. But then Jake was a bit, no, don't get the wrong idea. He didn't get admitted to medical school at this age. I'm sorry, the person on the right is actually my wife, Wendy, but I couldn't resist putting this picture in. Okay. The other important people in his life, of course, is his daughter, Carly, seen here with Jake at a later age, a very important couple in their lives. And of course, I think we all know that the petite 98-pound gorilla in the Teperman family is the quite beautiful and charming Helene Teperman. And in between liver transplants, they hang out together. Actually, the family hangs out a lot, particularly in the Teperman country house out on Long Island and on the north shore of Long Island, facing on the Long Island Sound. And overlooking the Long Island Sound and the North Fork, you can see the Teperman family. Don't get the wrong idea, that's not his boat in the background. His boat is more like a little rubber thing about 10 feet long. I don't want the New York Times to think he's getting overpaid for the transplants. This place has been the site of wonderful family get-togethers, and we have our annual department party there. So I think we have here a man of many talents, many interests, but above all, we have a man who is a gifted surgeon who has devoted his life to saving other lives with the talents God gave him, and he further developed with a lot of hard work. Truly a physician of the year, but really a physician of the world for all times. Lou, where are you? It's a pleasure to give this award on behalf of the American Liver Foundation. Oh, maybe you can hock it. Okay. Your constituency of family, patients, and colleagues. That's the department that Lou oversees. It's a pleasure to give you this award on behalf of the American Liver Foundation, your constituency of family, patients, colleagues, and all of us who have worked so closely with you over the years. You have more than earned it.
Thank you, Doctor. So Hillel said unbelievably nice things about me. He's a very dear and warm friend, and I'm delighted to know him for my entire professional career. I know you're going to hear a lot of speeches, and if you'll just indulge me for a short time, I promise you it won't take long. I'd like to look back at the field of transplantation for a little bit. When I went into medical school, my roommate, his mother was very sick. She actually needed a liver transplant, and she died prior to it ever happening. This was not a successful procedure until later on. Dr. Starzl was working on it, and Hillel's right, he will receive the Nobel Prize this year, but he was persistent. Under the health care constraints today, I don't think he would have had a leg up. They would have laughed at him. First off, the length of stay of the operation was 2 months. Initial success rate was 25%, and it was a very, very expensive procedure. I've learned that expenses are relative if you can save a life, and a patient can go on to be productive, go back to work, be a parent, a grandparent, a husband, a wife. Isn't that giving back to society? Isn't that costing society less? Transplantation is the field that turns adversity into triumph, death into life. It is a field where innovation has to be applauded, and that's why Tom will get the Nobel Prize this year. When I started in transplant, there was this unnamed entity. Maybe you heard of it, non-A, non-B. In 1989, it finally got a name by Cho and Kuo, hepatitis C. But for the last quarter of a century, it has been the scourge of our existence. Watching patients die waiting for transplants, watching patients on a treatment that was useless and painful, and watching them die after transplantation with recurrent disease was disheartening. But once again, innovation stepped in. One of our sponsors of this event developed an expensive pill that the press says is expensive for hepatitis C treatment. GILEAD is to be applauded. A disease has been identified and cured in approximately a quarter of a century. It's unheard of. 10 years from now, hepatitis C will barely be a thought. They have done the right thing and allowed cheaper generic medications to be made and given out in third world countries to treat hepatitis C. The countless money saved by not treating end-stage liver disease and the patients coming back to the hospital and the patients not needing a transplant makes up for what the press calls a $1,000 day a pill. To use Visa or MasterCard's term, it's priceless. Patients in this room have been saved. They were going down for the count after a transplant because the disease came back and there's nothing to treat it. They are now leading productive lives, coming to events, and aiding and raising money to get awareness out and to treat other liver diseases. And that is the cornerstone, the mainstay of the mission of the American Liver Foundation. With the help of ALF, approximately more than 3 million people in the United States who have hepatitis C will be identified by screening efforts and treated. This will prevent liver cancer and end-stage liver disease. But don't worry, I'm not putting myself out of a job yet. End-stage liver disease will still exist for us. We have a huge problem with obesity and alcohol in this country. Drink up, the wine is very good. To this end, you heard it, we've been researching another innovative strategy. And when I use this machine, people call us crazy. It's called the GILEAD device, an extracorporeal liver assist device that uses human cells that have been immortalized. They live forever. Now, I don't know if it's going to work, but I can tell you that it's expensive, it's innovative, and it's controversial. But we need innovation. We need to go on with science to progress medicine. I believe all innovation has to be given to all patients equally, the rich, the poor, whatever race they are. and organs have to be given out equally. You may have read in the news recently that we are involved in the quote-unquote liver wars. There is a significant geographic disparity of how organs are allocated in the United States. We all know that New Yorkers have to be much sicker in order to get them. They have to have a higher severity score than people in Florida or Tennessee. Patients who are poor, who have Medicaid, or who have Obamacare cannot transport their insurance, so they have to stay in New York. And the poor pay more. The sicker get sicker in New York. I call this the financial minority. Obamacare didn't fix this injustice, and in fact, it's broken, and it'll probably require a congressional act to fix it. And by the way, he made it more difficult for you guys to get here to the dinner tonight. I believe a life in New York is equal to a life in Arkansas or Minnesota. My daughter told me not to speak about Obama tonight. I honestly believe that life is sacred in any state in the Union. If, however, we fix the liver allocation, there still will be a critical organ shortage in the U.S. So what does the future hold for us? I believe there will be more innovation. Ready? In time, I believe that there will be 3D printers that can generate organs from stem cells. And finally, xenotransplantation, animals giving to humans, may be afforded a second look, though I'm sure the baboons aren't going to be too pleased about this idea. Liver transplantation has moved from an experimental to a therapeutic modality. I have been privileged in my lifetime to treat patients and see success right in front of me. I have been able to hawk my wares because of tremendous support. My home has been NYU after having been trained in Pittsburgh. Years ago, over a quarter century ago, NYU took a gamble and established a liver program and the Mary Lee Johnson Richards Organ Transplantation Center. Throughout the time at NYU, we've had institutional support by the NYU Langone Medical Center, the university, and support of important departments, such as Dr. Pachter, who runs our surgery department, hepatobiliary by Dr. Tobias, nursing, I saw Maureen here, and Donna, social work and research, and countless other of colleagues. Not to mention, most important, Dr. Morgan, Dr. Gelb, Dr. Winnick, and Dr. John, who I've seen here, my colleagues. But no one has given more support to this program than my family. To my bride, Helene, who has always been there through the triumphs and occasional adversity, her support, love, and guidance and partnership have been unwavering. To my children, Jake and Carly, who have probably spent their formative years being awoken every night at 2 a.m. by an emergency phone call. In spite of that, Jake has gone on to medical school, and believe it or not, Carly is contemplating such a course. They are my greatest creation. No one would be prouder of my kids than my mom, who Dr. Tobias showed you, and my hat is off to you, Hilo, because she supported all of us and believed in innovation. She was persistent. She believed in commitment, compassion, and above all else, passion. I thank each and every one of you for coming and granting me this high honor and supporting ALF. Thank you to the ALF, and Hilo, you were right. Thank you for the kosher franks and the blankets and the cocktail hour. My only requirement to be honored. I congratulate Rocco and Bob, two friends worthy honorees who have committed countless years to ALF. And now I must follow the wisdom of Winston Churchill's two B's. Be brief, which I hope I have done, and be seated. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Tom Nealon, and I am National Board Chair of the American Liver Foundation. First of all, I want to add my congratulations to tonight's honorees, but also want to thank them for all that they do on behalf of the American Liver Foundation. It's a particular pleasure for me to be here tonight so that I can thank all of you in person for your generosity and for your support of the American Liver Foundation and its vitally important mission, serving liver patients and their families through research, through education, and through advocacy. But tonight is also a night of dedication to our goal that we will not rest until we have found the cause and a cure for liver disease in all its forms. And that's a good segue to my introduction to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Lynn Syme, who's Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the American Liver Foundation, and she is going to present our next award. Thank you.
It is my pleasure to present the American Liver Foundation's 2014 Corporate Partner of the Year Award to Gilead Sciences. This award recognizes Gilead's enormous commitment in advancing liver disease research and treatment. It also recognizes the company's unwavering support for the American Liver Foundation's public education and advocacy programs. Gilead's commitment has offered new hope for and can transform the lives of millions of people living with hepatitis C. We're especially grateful to Gilead for providing support for our national helpline, 1-800-GO-LIVER. The helpline is the go-to source for liver patients and their families, providing answers to and guidance on their many questions and concerns. This includes how to find a doctor and information about the latest treatments, financial assistance programs, and clinical trials. We're also very excited to announce our newest partnership initiative with Gilead. Just this month, we are preparing to launch the first American Liver Foundation National Patient Advisory Committee. Approximately 30 patient advocates who are living with or cured of hepatitis C signed on to become members. They will help inform and participate in our public education and communications activities around hepatitis C. By sharing their experiences, they will help to put a face on this devastating disease. On behalf of the American Liver Foundation, we are so very pleased to present the 2014 Corporate Partner of the Year Award to Gilead Sciences.
What a great event at a time of cures for people living with hepatitis C, and at a time of such promise for those who are suffering from other liver diseases. We're truly humbled to be recognized here tonight, especially among the other honorees who have led such inspiring lives and done such tireless work for the American Liver Foundation. We depend upon the work of the American Liver Foundation. We depend upon their advocacy because we need policy to follow science. We depend upon the information that they share, most especially the inspiring patient stories that move each of us and inspire us to do more. And we rely upon the catalytic research that the American Liver Foundation funds. We could not do what we do at Gilead Sciences without all of you and without the inspiring and tireless work of the American Liver Foundation.
That's why we're so honored to be here tonight. And what's happening right now in hepatitis C is only inspiring us and moving us to make more progress on hepatitis B and to search for cures for all liver diseases. A drug that we released just about 11 months ago has now resulted in the cure of over 9,000 people. That would not be possible without your partnership and without your support, and without the inspiring work of the people who are being honored here tonight. But we cannot rest on our laurels. There are still far too many people undiagnosed, far too many people untreated, and there are far too many other liver diseases that still need to be conquered. But tonight, we can all be inspired, and we at Gilead Sciences are extremely grateful and humbled by this acknowledgement. Thank you.
Well, good night. How's everyone doing? Good. Well, again, I'm Senator David Carlucci, and it's an honor and a privilege to be here tonight. And like was said, I've worked on legislation here in New York to really promote organ donation. And we've heard it said over and over again tonight about the demand, about the need. And unfortunately, right now in New York State, we have over 10,000 men, women, and children currently waiting for a life-saving organ transplant. And what's so upsetting about that is that in New York, we have one of the lowest participation rates in the organ donor program in the nation. And so in the legislature, I worked with some partners and worked with advocates to say, what can we do to make a difference? There's got to be some simple policy changes that we can do and catch up to the rest of the nation. And that's why I'm so honored to be here tonight to introduce the next honoree. Rocco Andriola really is a champion when it comes to advocacy. He's a guy that really focused on the outcome and kept saying, hey, what can we do here in New York to reverse that trend? And the idea with Lauren's Law is very simple. We took what's working in other states and implemented the best of that here in New York. So now when you go to the Department of Motor Vehicles, where 97% of the people that register for organ donation do it, they'll be asked a question. It's called mandated choice. In order to fill out that application, they now have to decide whether you'd like to be an organ donor or not. And by taking that simple policy change, we believe we will save lives. But what's so exciting about Rocco is his advocacy in getting groups together, getting people together to finally decide and say, we can't be stagnant. We've got to take action. We've got to move it forward. And Rocco and I were just reminiscing earlier about how his leadership really pushed this forward. That he was able to get advocates together and focus and say, we can complain, we can talk about the problem, or we can take action. And that's what we did under the leadership of Rocco. He's been working towards this goal, towards the goal of supporting organ donation and helping the American Liver Foundation for so many years, for 26 years, after his father received a liver transplant that saved his life and gave him a quality of life for so many years following that. So it's people, the people in this room, the people like Rocco that were really helping to save people's lives. And I just want to really thank Rocco and everybody in this room for participating in such an important cause. Because unfortunately, you don't read about this on the front page of the paper. It's something that isn't covered on the nightly news. But we know with the action, with the research, with the contributions that all of you are making, we will make a difference and save lives. So I want to thank Rocco for his leadership, and it's my honor and privilege to present him with the award tonight.
It's a great honor and privilege to receive this award. Let me first thank the American Liver Foundation Greater New York Division for this award and for the incredible work they do. I also want to thank my family, friends, and business colleagues for taking time out of their busy schedules to be here tonight and for their financial support of this gala. And last but definitely not least, a special thank you to the two women in my life. First, my wife, Susan, who has always been there for me and been extremely supportive of my involvement in the cause of organ donation. And second, my mother, who dedicated her life to caring for my father for over 2 decades. And finally, let me also congratulate Dr. Teperman and Bob Pollichino for their longtime leadership and commitment in the fight against liver disease. In 1988, my father's health was declining rapidly due to hepatitis. It was non-A, non-B, caused by a blood transfusion. He was close to death, and the doctors made it very clear that he was going to die within weeks. It was only a question of when and not if. We were told at that time that our only hope was a liver transplant. Although frankly, as I look back, I thought it was completely futile. We had nothing to lose, and I wanted to do everything possible in my power to help save my father's life. It's hard to believe back in 1988, there were no liver transplants being performed in New York City. So my father, mother, and I went off to Pittsburgh, and sure enough, my father received a life-saving liver transplant. When life gives you a second chance, you have to take it. My father lived an extra 20 years. He woke up to over 7,000 bonus days of life. And he was there for the births of many grandchildren. He celebrated his 50th wedding anniversary, and he enjoyed many milestone events. So who would have thought all of that could be possible? In fact, none of it would have been possible without my father's donor and without a family deciding at the most tragic moment in their lives to donate the organs of their loved one. So during the 20 extra years my father lived, and the 6 years now since his death, I have been saying thank you by supporting organ donation and being involved in the fight against liver disease. The demand for organs is far exceeding the supply, and the problem in this country is only getting much worse. The United States has a major organ shortage crisis, which is not getting the media attention which it deserves. In the meantime, we have a national wait list for all organs, which is exceeding 134,000 patients. As Dr. Teperman referred to before, there is a brutal debate now going on the fairness of how an insufficient supply of livers is currently being allocated throughout the country. And unfortunately, in my opinion, we are just rearranging the deck chairs of the Titanic. We need to put a great deal more focus on increasing the size of the pie rather than fighting about how the pie is being cut up. So I've been told that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and somehow magically expecting a different result. So we need to stop the insanity now and develop new and innovative approaches to address what I believe is a horrible crisis. So specifically, we need to create pilot programs providing lifetime healthcare coverage, disability and life insurance for living donors, and funeral benefits for deceased donors. Thank you. We should also carefully examine additional benefits, such as a pension contribution, a tax credit, or a charitable contribution in the donor's name. On a personal basis, I am going to continue to work with enlightened legislators like Senator David Carlucci and new advocacy groups which are being formed, like Wait List Zero. My focus is going to be laser-like. It's going to be on how we can use public policy, just like what was done with seatbelts, smoking, and drunk driving, to create appropriate incentives to address the supply of organs. In conclusion, I'd like to accept this award in memory of my father, Pasquale, who cherished his second chance at life and the gift of life he received. I never heard my father complain, say that life is unfair, or ask, why me? But I did hear him thank God and his donor for every new day that he received. My thanks again to the American Liver Foundation, Greater New York Division, for this wonderful award. Have a great evening, and thank you for coming.
What is a liver champion? One of the definitions in the dictionary of the word champion is a person who fights or argues for a cause on behalf of someone else. My husband Robert began his journey working with the American Liver Foundation because of my journey with hepatitis C. He saw my passion for volunteering for a cause that meant a lot to me, and he just stepped in without being asked. It started when we needed someone, way back when, during our first Liver Life Walk, when we needed someone trustworthy to count the money in the counting tent. We enlisted him to do this tedious task for many hours. And like any good finance person, he brought his electric calculator with a running tape. But he no longer has that job, because now his rock band, Crisis, became the permanent entertainment at our Long Island Liver Life Walk, because ALF has discovered that his talents go beyond the calculator. Besides all the preparation that goes into this, all the countless hours of band practice, he'll be at the park on the morning of the walk before anyone else arrives to place signs and balloons at all the entrances, and then still spends an hour unloading the band equipment and setting up the stage. And then he entertains the crowd quite enthusiastically, making announcements and talking to the crowd between sets. Several months prior to the walk, he raises funds for our Liver Life Walk team, Team Benny, in memory of one of his best friends, Benny Catalano, who lost his brave fight with liver disease. Benny was also a Greater New York Division board member, as well as the bass player in his rock band Crisis. He was also one of the early founders of the Long Island Liver Life Walk. His wife, Ann, also a member of our New York Division board, continues the work of educating patients and raising awareness that we started together so long ago. I'm only touching on the many things he has done and continues to do for the American Liver Foundation on behalf of patients with liver disease. Those of you who know him know that his generosity goes beyond the American Liver Foundation. He's generous beyond limits with his family and friends, and he's the person you'd want in your corner. Those who know him know that he doesn't want any special thanks or attention for what he does for ALF because it comes from the heart. He is an advocate and champion for people and causes too numerous to mention. I'm proud of what he does for the American Liver Foundation, and this year we are honoring a true liver champion. I am proud to present the award to my husband, Robert Pollichino.
Tonight is a really special night for me because I'm sharing the evening with Dr. Lou Teperman and with Rocco Andriola, who I met in the early 90s when our involvement with the Liver Foundation started due to Gina's journey with hepatitis C. And I remember fondly Rocco's dad. I knew him as Patsy. And I saw his family every time we got together with the rebirthday, and I knew that this was a family and a family atmosphere and something that I wanted to stay involved with. But really tonight is not about honoring me. Tonight is really about honoring all of you, because you guys make it very easy for Gina and I to continue this journey.
And I'd like to thank and honor a group of you. First, I'd like to honor my family, who has been so supportive during all these years. I wish my mother could be here, but she's in Delaware. She just had hip replacement surgery, and my sister Janet and brother-in-law Bob are with her and couldn't be here tonight. So I see my brother videotaping this, so I guess she'll hear that. Also, my family at that table over there, 7, are the founding members of the rock band Crisis, so half of them play in the band as well. I'd also like to honor my friends and colleagues. And my friends and colleagues not only provided financial support, but you know who you are, sitting in the tent with me, counting money, Mr. Heaney. Today, I had no idea all of them were going to be coming. But when I got to the office, people were wearing ties. And I was a little fearful that we had just awarded bonuses and they were all going out on interviews. Thankfully, they were coming here, and I thank you all for coming. I'd also like to honor my friends and business colleagues because they have been side by side with Gina and I through all these many years, and I have to acknowledge some of them who are here this evening. From my friends at KPMG and Sullivan and Cromwell, from my new friends with Fifth Third Bank, who have really honored me to come tonight, the New York Islanders, American Movie Classics Networks, Sun Trust, Thatcher and Associates, Towers Watson, and my friend Lou Freslone from Largo Vista. I hope I haven't forgotten anybody, but really, you are the people that we need to honor because you make all of what you've seen tonight happen. And I would just like to continue by thanking my company, Madison Square Garden, and especially MSG Networks, who every year have run PSAs for this organization and have done the patient profiles that you've seen every year, and you've seen tonight Matt Feynman and his exceptional crew. And so if you would do me the honor of honoring all of you with a round of applause, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You know, today there's been great progress made in the treatment of hepatitis C in particular. And I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but my wife Gina has just taken the drug you've heard about this evening, and we're very hopeful that she has kicked it. And so far, the early signs are is that she has no virus, so it's really because of all of you. But many people with hepatitis C are still undiagnosed today and not taking the necessary precautions or seeking treatment. Many people, as you've heard tonight, are uninsured or underinsured, and they really need access to care, and they need help navigating this very complicated system. Thousands aren't even aware of the newest treatments. So everything that you guys do help us create awareness for the public to be able to get information and get help for these diseases. While there are many reasons to rejoice because we think that all hepatitis C patients will be cured and thus lives will be saved, the bottom line is we have to reach everyone, and everyone needs access to care. We at the American Liver Foundation, we represent all diseases, not just hepatitis C. Many liver diseases have not yet been cured, and some progress to needing transplants like you've seen this evening with Gary Egan and that wonderful patient profile. So while I appreciate and we appreciate all your generosity in the past, we still need to depend on you for the future. So once again, I would like to honor all of you for all of your generosity and support and making a real difference in the cause. Thank you very much.